17%, and there's nothing you can do about it. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check for annual maintenance and assessment fees. I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. For 15 years, I've helped over 50,000 families cancel their timeshare. Not sell it, not transfer it, cancel it. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment and your maintenance fees would never go up? That's a lie. Are you ready to get rid of your timeshare once and for all? Simply call us and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit that explains all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your timeshare exit kit. 800-366-6161. That's 800-366-6161. 800-366-6161.
He's fought and won against some very good fighters after starting out as nothing more than a YouTuber. But as correspondent Julie Walker reports, Jake Paul has finally met his match.
Jake Paul loses his heavyweight fight to Anthony Johnson in the 6th round of their Friday night bout in Miami.
I'm feeling good. That was fun. I love this sport. I gave it my all.
Two-time heavyweight champ Joshua displaying why he's one of boxing's elite punchers, dropping Paul more than once before delivering a right to the head in the 6th round to crush the YouTuber's upset dream.
He did amazing. He hits really hard, and I just did my personal best.
Paul also says his jaw was broken in the fight. Audio courtesy Netflix and MVP. I'm Julie Walker.
It was a great day for stocks on Friday on Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up 183 points. Breaking news and analysis at townhall.com. The National Weather Service has issued a rare warning for a part of Colorado's Front Range as hurricane-force winds and tender dry conditions combine there to boost the threat of wildfires across several counties. Meanwhile, Weather Service meteorologist Jennifer Stark says they're issuing that because they're concerned about the possibilities of fires breaking out.
We want people to be prepared. We want people that are in some of these wind-prone areas with the very dry vegetation to be prepared to evacuate at a moment's notice if they need to. We really want people to not do anything outside that could start a fire.
And it marked another day of severe weather in parts of the country, with forecasters issuing warnings for everything from more winter weather bearing down on North Dakota to red flag warnings in Nebraska and Texas, and flood warnings from Washington state into California. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Join your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt on our weekly radio hour, Chief Guard of the Republic, where we talk about all things national security, defense, personal security, safety, and dealing with law enforcement situations. Call in 847-931-1410. Ask us questions. We will get you answers. Every week, Saturday, noon to 1 on 1410 AM WRMN Elgin. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Chat with us on WRMN's YouTube live channel.
Chicago defense attorney Mark Schieblo has co-authored the book titled DUI Jury Trial, which is a true story of a DUI case that he defended. The accused was an Illinois truck driver arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol. This book contains facts about the case from the date of the arrest up to the jury's verdict, and this nonfiction novel also includes the transcripts from the jury trial itself. The book DUI Jury Trial is now available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com.
Fixed Bayonets, comrades, we're here with the Chief Guard of the Republic Radio Shout-Out Show with your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt every Saturday, noon until 2 on WRMN 1410 AM. You can find us on WRMN1410.com. That's not AM.com. It's just 1410.com.
Yep, WRMN1410.com.
Yeah. Or you can tune in to the WRMN 1410's YouTube live channel. You call us. Our call-in number is 847-931-1410. The text number, 505-926-1410, if you don't want to hear your voice on air. Or you could just hit us up in the chat. Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Good. How are you? And Merry Christmas to everybody coming up.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to everyone. And, Merry Christmas to the soldiers out there that got their $1,776 bonus. Did you hear
That's
about?
a great number.
Yeah, I know.
That is a great number.
It's significant, very significant. I can't. Oh, 4th of July is going. What day is 4th of July on this 2026?
I think it's a Thursday, but I could be
Oh,
wrong.
Thursday. That's going to make it like a 5-day weekend. It's gonna be brutal. I'll have to store up all my beer rations until then. That's going to be a long drinking weekend. Not that I advocate for long drinking.
That's
weekends.
on a Saturday.
It's on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, it'll still be lit because the 3rd will be a Friday. You know, and of course they're going to give out. You think they're going to give people the 3rd off or the 6th off?
I think the 3rd.
Yeah, I would think the 3rd. Yeah, Fridays are always better. Mondays are kind of lame. Having that extra day on Monday, you know, after Sunday and everything. So, Paul, I wanted to discuss public transportation today. I think we went into it a little bit in one of the previous shows. And just that, you know, everyone's screaming about, not everyone, but people concerned about the environment, people concerned about all this stuff, right? And one of the things that should greatly reduce gasoline usage would be an efficient and safe public transportation system. And it would provide an increased quality of life for some people that normally don't get beyond 2 blocks away from their house. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
So I was going back on some statistics, and it makes no sense to me. You know, I was thinking that people weren't riding the CTA because it was massively more expensive than when we were kids. And I went back to like 1976, and the rides were 50 cents each in 1976. Get on the bus, 50 cents. Of course, you get a token for 10 cents, right? But now the rides are between $2.50 and $2.75. But if you adjust that 50 cents for inflation, you come up with $2.85. So it's actually cheaper to ride the bus now. So it's not an expense thing. So I'm digging down a little further then. Well, what about people with gas, right? So a gallon of gas back then was $3, and it was about 62 cents in Chicago. That's 12 cents more. That's 24% higher. And adjusted for inflation, that comes up to $3.60. Of course, today I bought gas at like $2.60, but that 62 cents comes up adjusted for inflation would be like $3.60 a gallon back then. But today I got it for $2.69 because I paid cash. And, you know, I wasn't in Cook County, obviously. But that's right around there with inflation. But you have to factor in other things other than just gas price. You know, the price of the cars, price of maintenance, price of the city stickers, price of your insurance. They didn't have mandated insurance in 76, did they? I don't think.
I think they did.
You think they did?
I think they did. Yeah.
Anyways,
you couldn't. Yeah, I don't think you could get your plates unless you showed proof of insurance or your sticker or something.
Yeah. So it being massively cheaper to drive a car than to ride the bus, right? That doesn't even work out because it's still around the same. But we have the population in Chicago in 76 was 3.3 million, but now we're down to 2.7 million. That's a drop of 0.6 there. That's almost 20%. That's a little less than 20% drop in population. And however, back then they had 11,000 employees at the CTA. Now, with the 20% decrease in population, they have 11,400, which means they have more, right? And so you got more employees, you figure better service, right? But apparently you lost your ridership because I couldn't go. I love artificial intelligence and everything because when it doesn't want to tell you something, when it's leaning there and it It's not sentient, but I know that it kind of reads and puts together and kind of guesses where you're going at. So if you're going right, it's going to lead you to middle, to the middle, or it's going to lead you a little left, right? If you're going left, I don't know, because I hardly ever go left. The only time I go left is when I miss a right turn, so I turn left 3 times, and I'm still right. Like they said, 2 wrongs don't make a right, but 3 lefts do. Oh, we got a call.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey Larry, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, Larry.
I just want to say out there that the one good thing about your show is that Mike and Paul are 2 regular guys. They're not.
Well, I'm hoping to get to celebrity dumb, Larry. I'm hoping to get up there.
Okay. Well, I just want to say that what's good about your show is that it's like listening to 2 guys in a restaurant or something. Just 2 guys. That's what I was going to say. But things have changed over the years very slowly, okay? I don't know if people notice or not, but everything's kind of inflation. That's correct.
Your cell phone's breaking up, Larry. Are you driving?
Sorry. No, I'm at my health club. Makes it go, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, it makes it go easier, okay? But the thing is that you got to factor in a lot of these jobs at the CTA and other places are boondoggle jobs, okay, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. Well, you jumped to that conclusion. I was going to slowly lead people into that.
Okay. I mean, let's face it, you're an alderman or a state senator or whatever. You want people on your side. You give them a job at the CTA. Everybody knows that. They hire everybody, right?
Well, I wouldn't say everybody. I'm sure they have their...
They're not hiring nobody that nobody sent.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't hire nobody that nobody sent.
Or a darn good facsimile. But that's the problem we have is that, I'll tell you a story, okay? As you guys know, I do a lot of traveling around the world, okay? I just came back from Cyprus.
Yes.
And a few years ago, I was in Northern Ireland, okay? Now, believe it or not, it's either a slight edge to Catholics over Protestants now in Northern Ireland. Before it was like, over the years, there are more Catholics now than Protestants.
Ireland was a big emigration destination for a lot of Eastern Europeans, particularly the Poles, which are hardcore Catholic.
Right. But what I want to get at is this. So I've met Catholics, and I asked them, do you ever see, now that you're pretty much close to taking over Northern Ireland, more popular, do you see yourself uniting with Ireland? And it says, no, never. You know why? They told me 1 out of every 3 Catholics has a job with the British government. And if they unite with Ireland, they're going to lose their jobs. So why would they want to unite? All right, guys. Happy holidays. You guys are the best. And
you too, Larry.
Thank
and
you.
A better
go ahead.
Year.
Happy holidays, Larry.
Thank you. Happy Hanukkah to all my Jewish friends, and Merry Christmas to us all. And I heard a good one. Can I say it over the radio? I heard a good one today.
Is it blue, or does it have bad words?
Well, no, it's not blue or had bad words.
Okay.
But somebody made a comment that with all these pictures of Clinton on Epstein Island, Clinton turns out to have been at Epstein Island more than Epstein. All right, guys. Love you. Goodbye.
That's a good one. Hey, Mike. You're right. Mandatory insurance came in Illinois in 1990.
Yeah. All right. So, that wasn't kind of an added factor then.
There's something that I'd like to know though, and you and Larry are totally correct about the patronage and all of that, and things like that sort. And I have two thoughts about this. I have a cousin who's a minister, and they were from all over, because my uncle, I sent you pictures of my uncle, was in the military for a while, and then he became a preacher. And my cousin went to the Moody Bible Institute, and when he came here, he worked as a summer bus driver, believe it or not, on buses. And he would tell me some horrific stories. And a friend of mine is an attorney, and he was a summer bus driver those same years. And he would tell me some horrific stories, you know. But what I would ask is not as much as the budget, not as much as the population, but what is the ridership?
All right,
And
so
I want to know if the ridership's gone up or down.
all right, so in
here's
2000, they had a ridership because you couldn't get back further dates, right? Further dates.
right.
You know, I went back 2000, they had a ridership of 450.5 million. 450 million, 500,000. Sounds like a lottery payout, right? Well, in
Right.
2024, that dropped down to 309.2 million. That is
Yeah.
a 25% drop, more than a 25, almost a 30% drop.
You know,
in ridership.
you know, that's concerning to me, because as you know, I was I still am a licensed. I was a professional concealed carry instructor when I retired from the state of Illinois, and I did it with a partner. We have a company. Well, I still have that company, but between that and my hiring by a local gun shop, I've trained over 6,000 or 7,000 people, and the interesting thing I found out about it was when I worked at the gun shop, I could converse with the people both before and sometimes in the class and after the class, and there was a nice young lady, and she was what we call maybe like a doorman slash security,
Yeah.
and her father was a policeman. I believe he was a detective on the east side, and they lived in like Inglewood or something like that. And she told me that there had been times because she got off kind of late at, she have a like a night shift, and she was robbed all the time on the train or the bus, whatever she was taking. And the law is you can't carry a gun on the concealed carry.
I
specifically. I know, and there's a way to do it too, but it can't be loaded when you're doing it. But she was getting robbed, and she said one time it was so bad that she had some extra food left over, and the guy actually stole her sandwich. He literally stole her sandwich. Okay.
Yeah.
And I know a little bit about this because, again, besides being a concealed carry instructor, I'm also licensed to train guards. And many years ago, dog handlers were allowed to be in this program. And I noticed they went from like 175 to 188 dog handlers, because the dog handlers are usually armed. But we actually were contracted by a local place that had one of the first contracts for that. And it's unsafe, and it's unsafe because the city's unsafe, and the city's unsafe because the politicians aren't doing what they're supposed to do. Okay. And we have beautiful, wonderful young women getting Roman candled, literally, on the trains. And apparently yesterday, a guy set himself on fire. Okay. And, we're worried about the armed citizen, but we're not worried about the human Molotov cocktail citizen. And it's kind of sad what's really happening in Chicago, and it's happening in other big cities too. And eventually we're going to be hiring more and more people to be driving emptier and emptier buses because it's a joke. And they want to raise the taxes, and they want to tax all of Illinois, and for what? I mean, what I see is the flash mobs are using the big green limousine to transport them to their, nefarious destination. It's not the women that are working as the cleaning ladies at night. It's not the students that are doing it because, they can't afford to park downtown when they're going to school. It's not the good people that need it. It's the bad people that are using it as a vehicle. And,
yeah. So, Paul,
I was in court.
Paul, like you said, the flash mobs, but we also use the CTA, all right, to remove the flash mobs. So I was working CTA on the midnights, voluntary extra employment for cash, and you get Social Security points, which police officers don't get unless they're working a side job like that. But they called like every car to Fort City. You remember Fort City, don't you, Paul?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so that's a mall on the south side. And the buses down 79th Street and down Cicero pull in there. Right? It's a big destination. And it was a big destination. And to get rid of the, quote, flash mobs, the police that got down there, the 8th District and the Fort City Police, which are mostly off-duty 8th District guys, right? Are shoving these guys into the bus. They didn't even pay. It's just get them in the bus, right? And then the bus took off going east to take them back home, right? And we were following the buses, making sure no one got off until they got to the east side. Like, so that's the green limousine, the Jolly Trolley there, just took them right east. But so they may or may not pay to get on the bus, or to get on the L, but they certainly didn't pay to get sent back home. I'm sorry to interrupt you there. Go on.
Well, we got Brendan and Dennis, and we've got downtown Jose on. I've seen, and I know a lot of people have seen. I mean, I've seen a lot of terrible things on the bus, and I lived by Fort City, as you know, and I used to take 2 buses usually to get to initially school and then later on to work, and I've seen some horrific things even in good neighborhoods on the bus. I've seen people that, I seen at one time a guy, I don't know, he kind of snapped and went nuts. He opened up a soda and he spilled it on all the people around him. I saw a girl one time with, she had no underclothes on, and she was flashing these high school students. And I told her, I said, and it was right by Fort City. I told her, I'm getting the bus driver and I'm going to get you arrested. And she jumped off the bus. I've seen some terrible things on the bus, and I know, and this is relatively good, but I also know a couple other things too. I've seen some of the worst service I've ever seen. There was one time, this happened to me twice in the course of about 5 years. I left a school and I went to John Marshall, which is now part of the University of Illinois, but it's down by like Van Buren. It was so bad in a snowstorm, I had to walk north of Marina Towers to get on a bus to go south. So I waited at the stop for an hour. I walked an hour. I got on the bus. I stood for an hour to get back where I first started.
Isn't that when the CTA went on strike?
No, but I'm 3 hours now and I haven't even left the loop. Takes an hour to get on this I-55 ramp. That's 4 hours. I'm standing on the ramp and I'm standing in the doorway. And that was an hour on the ramp. Then it was an hour to get to whatever it was, which was Pulaski and Archer. So now I'm waiting for a local bus to take me from Archer and Pulaski to Archer and 79th. And the bus guy comes and he goes, no, I take that back.
79th.
I was on Cicero. I was on Cicero and Archer. The guy at the turnaround says they closed all the routes because I lived by
Yeah, I know where you lived.
City. Yeah, they canceled the routes, so I had to get on a bus another hour to go back to Archer and Pulaski, to take a bus from Archer and Pulaski to another hour. I was on this bus for 8 hours. Okay, I was soaking wet. I'm standing there, and there was a payphone by what used to be the White Hen, but it was now a convenient. I called my dad because I'm still a mile away from. I said, come and get me and bring an extra jacket. Okay. I was on the bus for 9 hours. And that happened again once when I was working.
You only need an experience like that once to make you avoid taking the CTA.
That's exactly right. And then, plus I'm a lawyer. I got to be in court the next day. It's now 11 o'clock at night almost. I got to eat, go to bed, whatever. So, we throw money at stuff, but we don't get anything for it.
Yeah.
And
any excuse.
First, there was the suburban buses. Then there was PACE. Then there was RTA. Now I hear in this bill, it's the Northern Illinois Regional, whatever. It's just another way of hiring my wife's nephew without, planning. In the 1930s, they used to have electric trolleys and buses that ran on trolley lines.
I know. Now, they had them in San Francisco.
Right, but we had them here.
Yes.
There were the routes on 47th
permanent routes,
Street
electric buses, electric buses, electric trolleys, electric buses, electric, all electric, and they tore them out because oil was so much better. We got to go to break real quick, but it's a bad time to go to break because Paul's all excited. It's a hard thing to do to get Paul excited. All right, so we'll see you back from the break for the second quarter of the Chief Guard of the Republic. Want to read some action-packed, exciting pulp fiction? Read the works of Michael Tooman, now featuring the international crime thriller, I Married a Bot Madam. Available on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle editions. The paperback is also available at other book retailers. Check out Michael Tooman's webpage at Silink.net. That's Papa, Sierra, Yankee, Lima, India, November, Kilo. November, Echo, Tango.
At Britain's Touchless Car Wash, they know life gets busy. That's why they're here 24/7 to keep your car looking spotless, fast, and easy. Their advanced brush-free wash technology delivers a sparkling clean without a single scratch, because they treat your car like it's their own. Here's the best part. Right now, you can get a free car wash just for joining their text club. It's simple. Just text BRITT to 30400, and your first wash is on them. Britain's Touchless Car Wash has two convenient locations, 1923 Larkin Avenue in Elgin and 555 Willow in West Dundee. They're proud to keep your car clean while giving back to our community. Text BRITT to 30400. That's BRITT to 30400. Now for your free car wash, and see why Britain's Touchless Car Wash is the fast, gentle, and reliable choice.
If your idea of therapy involves a fishing rod, a tree stand, or a campfire, then you need American Outdoors Radio. Host John Cruz speaks your language, whether it's about the best lures, tracking game, or that one buddy who always forgets to bring the beer. John's got the tips to sharpen your aim, the hacks to pack lighter, and the stories to keep you entertained. Again, that's American Outdoor Radio with John Cruz. Saturdays at 7 a.m. on WRMN 1410. Or stream it at WRMN1410.com. Get ready to outfish, outhunt, and outcamp them all on American Outdoor Radio with John Cruz.
Children are the greatest joy and our best hope for a better future. Friends, they are the future. But did you know that millions of kids right here in our own backyard are facing hunger every day? Without healthy food, it's harder to grow, to thrive, to feel their best.
The impact when children don't have enough to eat is tremendous because when you're hungry and your basic needs aren't being met, you cannot learn.
Every child deserves to be fed. This is a problem we know how to solve. Food is not just food. It's energy, health, confidence, hope, and even love. Yes, love.
Breakfast in the classroom contributes to kids being more focused, which leads to higher grades, and simply just their well-being.
Thank you! Learn more about how No Kid Hungry is helping end child hunger in America at helpnokidhungry.org.
Join your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt on our weekly radio hour, Chief Guard of the Republic, where we talk about all things national security, defense, personal security, safety, and dealing with law enforcement situations. Call in 847-931-1410. Ask us questions. We will get you answers. Every week, Saturday, noon to 1 on 1410 AM WRMN Elgin. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Chat with us on WRMN's YouTube live channel. Fix Bayonets, comrades, we're here for the second quarter of the Chief Guard of the Republic radio show with your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt. We talk about all things national defense, personal security, national security, military, law enforcement, how to deal with law enforcement situations. If you got a question, we are subject matter experts. Well, self-appointed subject matter experts. I give a list of my bona fides, but it would bore me. Anyways, so, our call-in number here is 847-931-1410. Our text number is 505-926-1410. And you could hit us up in the comments as Brendan, Dennis, and Downtown Jose, right? Have been doing. Right. So there's plenty of room in the comments there. So we know we got at least three listeners on the YouTube Live, which is great thing, WRMN's channel. And after WRMN, they posted on there with all the commercials. I download it, take the commercials out, and upload it back to the Chief Guard of the Republic. So sometimes it's hard to find all of our shows, but if you go to the Chief Guard of the Republic channel on YouTube, they're all there. All right, so
yeah, so there's a lot of stuff to this, so I would take either the bus on Pulaski or the bus on Cicero, which was the 54B, and then I transferred to either a 99 or an Archer, 62 Archer, or I take the 52, I believe it was Pulaski, or get the 162.
52 was Pulaski. The 162 was the Archer Express.
Right. So I take those. But, there'd be times, you'd be getting on the bus and, the air conditioners never worked. Okay. So, if it was 92 outside, it was 100 on the bus. And I mean, just silly stuff like that. But, and you'd sit there and, they had these floor, they had to make their money. So they had those little light panels up on the top that always had the inserts for ads, And, I don't want to get gross, but you could always see like dead bugs, in there. And then it got to be so bad that, you'd be driving and every time the bus had moved forward, little white powdery stuff would come from the lights, So finally, a woman went up to the bus driver, and she said, "This is roach powder, isn't it?" And the guy said, "I don't know what it is." You know, and
I just
so,
drive them. I don't clean them.
Yeah, right. So, think about this. You're like a regular person, you're going to work, but you're allergic to this stuff. Got it all over your clothes. You got it, you get, have an asthma attack or whatever. It's run like a bunch of fools.
It's run like Amtrak.
Well, Amtrak might be better because how often do they fall off the tracks? Not many. Sometimes, but not many.
Every time I've taken Amtrak, it is busted down for like 3 hours. I'm talking interstate, all right? You're sitting in the middle of nowhere for 3 hours. It's not moving. You're not getting to your destination. You may be missing something because you say, well, at least the train should run on time. But it's like, wait a second. How come every time I get on a train this happens? Is it me, or is it a total lack of maintenance on the people getting paid to do the maintenance? Because guess what? Whether Amtrak makes the money or not, all right, they're still going to have the trains and they're still going to have their jobs. Because they're subsidized. They're subsidized by the federal government to make sure that we have an interstate rail system for people that don't like to fly or take the bus.
That's true. Now, this brings up a point, and Dennis is commenting about the roach powder, but and Dennis would know this. And, I didn't really know this until I went to the Railway Museum, and then I asked my parents about it. And then Marla's relatives live in Indiana, and we talked to them. There was a thing called interurban. Okay, and actually, it developed in the early 20s or whatever. Probably it probably got big in the Depression, but there was a way that you could, say you lived in Peoria. Okay, you get at the train, by 7:38 in the morning, and by 9:30. You're at Marcia Fields, and you're spending your day in the loop, and then at 3:00 you head back to the train, and you take the interurban, and then you're back in Peoria by 5:30 making dinner, and there's no there's no highways, no roads, no traffic jams. You're just, you did your shopping, you spent your day in town, maybe you had to see a lawyer or meet some folks that, had moved to the big city, and it was a better life. And the same thing was true with the interurban going to like, Clinton, Indiana, and things like that. These were underserved towns that, so the big city wasn't really all that far. You weren't really, the person that was, in the boonies.
You could spend 2 hours on I-55 coming in from what was Bolingbrook, all right?
Right.
2 hours stuck in traffic, burning gas, getting aggravated. Or you could spend 2 hours on the rail coming in all the way in from Peoria.
Right. And the same is true about going to Peoria. Maybe there was a restaurant in the downtown area by the river that you liked, and you had friends there, and you could meet there, or you had kin from that were
plus all the little towns along the way where this thing stops.
Right. And then you were connected. They had the Chicago newspaper that this was, and we're talking.
We still have the Metro, but it only goes out so far. I mean, you go up to McHenry on the Metro.
Right. But these were cars that had like 30 seats, 40 seats. And then the funny part is when you get to the end of the line, they flip the seats for the other direction. And then, so we're with the same car, they don't have to turn it around. It goes one way.
Some people can't travel facing backwards.
Right. It's better to see what's ahead than to see what you passed.
Yeah, but you can see what you passed for a long period of time.
I'm joking, but we talk about it, and you want to know something? You were talking about it being 50 cents. Nice. It was probably 5 cents back then. Yep. It was probably maybe a dime.
Okay, speaking of dimes, I want to segue into this one. All right, so I wonder what would happen if a Doge-like entity came in to the Chicago Transit Authority. I wonder what nightmares they would uncover, what absolute nightmares they would uncover. But I was down in Panama, one of my Army trips, and in Panama City, the Via de España, it's a big street that goes all around the city, And they had these buses, these psychedelic buses. They were like school buses. And they were all tricked out and flashing lights and painted wild colors and everything. And they had all sorts of decorations inside. Each of those buses was independently owned and operated. And they had a license to do the Via de España. And it was a dime. This is back in the 90s, all right? This was back in the 90s. It was a dime to ride that bus anywhere. You get on the bus, it's a dime. You ride that bus forever for a dime. You get off the bus, you try to get back on, it's another dime, all right? Now, you had to drive a cab for so many years to get a bus license. Now, the cab charge you they charge you Americans a lot more, right? But it usually was $1. It'd take that $1, they take you like anywhere. Making a lot of kids out here shopping before Christmas with their parents. So, they come by and they see the station with the radio monkeys in here, and we wave back at them because we're well-trained monkeys here. Anyway, so you would have to drive this cab before you could drive the bus because that bus was the moneymaker. Everyone got on that bus. All the people got on that bus, and they didn't have any problems because there was the bus driver and his big thug enforcer who wouldn't let you on the bus without your dime and wouldn't let anyone cause trouble. And people didn't ride it for that long. And you didn't have a favorite bus or anything. You just got on the next bus. So you could ride, a half a mile instead of walking, do your shopping, get on the bus again, ride another half mile. And if you took 10 bus rides, it cost you $1, which is the same as a cab ride. So that was almost a total privatization. We have cabs here. The cabs, the taxi cabs. But that's a form of public transportation that's been privatized. All right. And they have not kept up with competition. Right. The thing is with the buses and the rail lines is they are nationalized. There is no competition. They call it a quasi, right? It's quasi-private, but the Metro has their police department. The Metro, all these things are the Amtrak, the CTA, the RTA, the L trains. That's all government run. It's all government. It's all thing. The only thing privatized out there, the taxi cabs, which the city sells. They sell the medallions for. All right, you got to get one of those medallions, and then you have Lyft and Uber and whatever. We used to call those used to be illegal. We called them jitney cabs. But you needed, when you worked on the west side, a regular cab wouldn't come to the west side. They absolutely wouldn't come. And everyone knew it. And it was not legal for them to do that, but no one's going to call and complain because they're not going to spend a quarter and go down to the bureau that handles the taxis in Chicago and make a complaint. But they had the jitney cabs, and we had numbers behind the desk in the 11th district. If someone wanted a ride, we'd give them the phone number. Here, go to payphone, call for this guy, right? And they were like at HF radio dispatch. They'd come out and they'd get them, and it'd be a normal car, and they'd take them because they weren't afraid to go into the ghetto, or they knew how to handle that, right? Now the buses have to go through the ghetto, and the trains go through there. The thing that I saw in real time was people, I wouldn't say it kind of got an entitlement, but they were thugs. And the people working to CTA, some of them very pleasant, very nice people, right? Rather than deal with these monsters, they just let them on. You know, they'd come to the station, they want to have money. Sometimes they would try a sob story. Other times they just jump over the turnstile and just go. No one stopped them. No one stopped them because it's more trouble for them, right? Of course,
Right.
these are the guys that should be getting mega prosecuted. But the reason you can't prosecute them is because you no longer have, they used to have the Chicago Transit Authority Police, a separate police department just for the Chicago Transit Authority. They got rid of them. Then Chicago had its public transportation unit. And they downsized that to put more police officers on the street, rip-robbing it from the CTA, but the CTA still hired, off-duty guys to come in and do the work, and you're still doing city work. You're still arresting people and everything. You're just working for the public transit authority that was funded by federal dollars. That's how they spent the federal dollars for the law enforcement without having a law enforcement thing and without having a permanent unit. So, you led into this, right? There's two problems with any public utility managed by the government, all right? One is that when you collect all these tax dollars and you're in charge of the pool of tax dollars, who are the first ones that you're going to invite to the trough to feed? In 1984, right? The first ones, you're not going to invite the sheep, you're not going to invite the chickens, you're not going to invite the ducks, the geese, or anyone else. You're a pig. You're going to invite the pigs. Pigs are going to eat first. Here's this big trough, right? So people come on, but they're like, well, because I have this phone call, I don't have to work as much. I don't have to. You can't fire me. Or even if they do get fired, they get another job somewhere else, maybe better. But you have an overabundance of useless employees. One, all right? The second problem there is that with this, you have a high crime on the buses. You have people trapped. Right? You're on the L. You're on a train. All right. It's sparsely populated because it's between hours or it's the late night run. Some of them only run till 11 o'clock. They don't run all night because it would be stupid at this point, right? So you don't get the ridership that you need, right, to cover it. So around 11 o'clock, you get that last train in, right? And it's sparse. People, the bulk of your people that work downtown don't work the midnight shift, and most places close at 9 o'clock, right? So 11 o'clock, now you got one or two people in a car, and someone comes in, and you got that, you're going between, let's see, Montrose and this is just on the blue line between Montrose and Jackson Park. It's a few minutes and everything before those doors open up again. You are trapped with whoever's in that car, and no one's coming to help you.
And you bring up a good point, and then you know what you see then?
What?
You see Bernard Getz, and you see Charlie Bronson on Death Wish. That's what your future looks like when you're doing that, and you're not investing in the security and the safety. And I'll tell you something else that you were talking.
Again, Paul, it's security and safety, but we've talked about this. It's selective enforcement.
Right. But you just mentioned something, and I'll tell you something. You talked about, like say, the employee gets disciplined or fired, and maybe he gets another job. I'm gonna tell you what you're gonna see in those situations, and I'm not talking about the poor fired employee if he is a poor fired employee. You're gonna see in these patronage jobs, right or wrong, a correlation between harassment cases, like sexual harassment.
Oh, yeah.
You know why?
I saw it on the police department all the time. The people that had a phone call did whatever they wanted.
That's correct.
And you got punished for it.
The administrators are the biggest hacks usually.
Yeah. So no, if
you offered it to a guy who had some training in public transportation, even, you'd probably have a much more efficient and better run system. But no, we got to pick, wifey's, deadbeat cousin Leonardo, and he's like running the surface rail in Chicago. And instead of getting a guy that maybe has a degree or some certificate in transportation, or maybe some prior job in a rail line or logistics or something like that. But no, we got to get, because again, we're not taking nobody that nobody sent, and that's what the problem is. And, I've said this long before, and I've been criticized for this. There is a theory that if you go to a truly civil service type of experience, okay, where, you take unions out of it, you take patronage out of it, and you go to a regular, true civil service thing, where, even for police and everything like that, where if you're in this group, you can transfer between departments, maybe get a guy from up here, go down there for a while. You get a varied experience, and you might get a better workforce, a safer workforce, and it would be the same thing with transportation.
The Army calls that broadening opportunities.
That's correct. And there's nothing wrong with that, because if we all come with the same basis points, then we're all good. And then, like there used to be, there's compacts and agreements between teachers in Hawaii and teachers in California and certain public officials, public service officials. They can transfer between departments or their laterals or something like that. If you had that, or even had, people willing to do a temporary assignment or something like that, you'd have a better working system. You'd have more experience. You'd have somebody that would call out the ridiculousness of certain training, and that, Leonardo's really not the guy, that we don't need to hear from Leonardo. We need to hear about somebody that can put 2 and 2 together and realize it's 4, and it's just sad, it's sad.
Now
we don't do that.
Here was my point, is that you'll never be able to do that in government. Never.
Right.
Because the pigs are at the trough and they're like, let me invite all the other piggies in to eat at this trough, rather than doing the job. I got this great paying job for you. Do I need to work? No. Okay, I'll take it. Do I need to work? Yes, but you get the same pay. No, well, I don't want it. Give me a job where I don't got to work.
Well, that also creates resentment too, because the people that are working are getting abused.
Oh, yeah, no, everyone knows it. And that destroys the morale of who is actually working. But there are people out there, believe me or not, there are people out there that just want to do the job. They want to have pride in their work. And they're public servants. Police officers, firemen, streets and sand, garbage workers, CTA employees, they all just want to do their job the best they can. But it's the 90%, 10% role.
Right.
You spend
You're right.
all your time catering to the 10% of the entitled few, and the other 90% that are pulling the weight and everything don't get nothing. No attention.
Yep.
Imagine if you had 10 dogs and you only showed attention to one dog.
There'd be a revolt.
Yeah, none of the other dogs would listen to you. They'd be peeing all over the place, everything else. So, are we close to a break?
About a minute.
Yeah, so I'm going to save this story from when we come back because I think it shows a lot about what you're saying. And then I want to get on to my point on how, like in Panama, this situation can be fixed.
Okay.
So, that's, there's sometimes you just got to, boom, you just got to get rid of something. It's bleeding too much. There's too many holes in this balloon. We need to buy a new balloon. We're losing too much air. We need to shut down this balloon and get another one.
I hear you.
And here we go for the our fine sponsors. Well, they're not really our sponsors, but they're commercials during our show. I got to get anyone want to be sponsored? Sponsor us. Call on in. Want to read some action-packed, exciting pulp fiction? Read the works of Michael Tooman, now featuring their international crime thriller, I Married a Bot Madam. Available on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle editions. The paperback is also available at other book retailers. Check out Michael Tooman's webpage at Scilink.net. That's Papa, Sierra, Yankee, Lima, India, November, Kilo. November Echo Tango. Join your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt on our weekly radio hour, Chief Guard of the Republic, where we talk about all things national security, defense, personal security, safety, and dealing with law enforcement situations. Call in 847-931-1410. Ask us questions. We will get you answers. Every week, Saturday, noon to 1 on 1410 AM WRMN Elgin. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Chat with us on WRMN's YouTube Live channel.
Your hometown radio station since 1949. We are WRMN AM 1410 Elgin time, 1 o'clock.
Breaking news at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. As Congress heads home for the annual Christmas break, U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson says the GOP has multiple proposals waiting when lawmakers return to address spiraling health care costs. On the Salem News program this week on Capitol Hill with Tony Perkins, the Louisiana Republican said, while in his words, Democrats broke the health care system, he's going to fix it.
The challenge has been, with the margins so small here, the majority is so small, no Democrats have ever been willing to help us on any of that. They broke the system, they doubled, tripled down on it, and they haven't allowed us to do it. So we're using, even though we have a small margin, we'll have a one-vote margin in the Republican majority from January to April until a seat is filled in Georgia. We're going to still, even with that small margin, hold everybody together, stay unified, and get these things done. It must be done for the American people.
Speaker Johnson's full interview was heard today, as it is every Saturday, on the program this week on Capitol Hill with Tony Perkins. GOP strategist Aaron McGuire says there's no question congressional Republicans have some hard work ahead before the midterms.
Congress is actually in the hardest place it has been in a very long time, looking at this short runway to the end of the year and a number of big things to try and clean up along the way.
President Trump says drug companies have agreed to reduce prices on some pharmaceuticals.
They've agreed to offer many of their flagship drugs, really all of their flagship drugs, at heavily discounted, most favored nations prices. In other words, whatever the drug sells for over the world, in the world, whatever the lowest number is, if it's Germany, if it's in UK, anywhere, we will match that price.
And those new prices apply for medications treating a number of serious conditions, including diabetes, arthritis, HIV, and asthma. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Got any gadgets? Get online protection. NordVPN has a ho-ho holiday deal just for you. Secure up to 10 devices with a single account. NordVPN's Threat Protection Pro feature helps you avoid malware, phishing, and annoying trackers. Just a few taps and you're safer online. Let your gadgets sparkle with online security. Go to NordVPN.com and get up to 77% off plus 3 extra months. NordVPN.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com, because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, E-T-H-O-S, ethos.com/Mike.
Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik is suspending her campaign for New York governor and will not be seeking re-election to Congress.
Announcing her abrupt departure, Stefanik said she was confident of her chances in the GOP primary for governor, but she said it is not an effective use of our time to stay in the race, and that she instead wants to spend more time with her young son and family. Stefanik was set to have a tough race against Bruce Blakeman, a county official in New York City's suburbs. President Trump praised her online, saying Stefanik is a fantastic person and congresswoman. Greg Clugston, Washington.
The Lumbee tribe of North Carolina achieved a goal more than a century in the making this week when it secured federal recognition as a tribal nation. Lawrence Locklear is a Lumbee historian at UNC Pembroke.
This is a game changer for the Lumbee people. It means a lot of access to a lot of federal benefits, so we're really excited about that.
You'll find breaking news and analysis at townhall.com. AI led a surge on Wall Street Friday to close out the trading week on a strong note.
Stocks gained ground on Wall Street as AI stocks like NVIDIA turned higher again. The S&P 500 rose 0.9% Friday. The index erased its losses for the week. The Dow Jones Industrial Average added 183 points. That's about 0.4%. The Nasdaq Composite rose 1.3%. Oracle rose 6.6%. The tech giant is taking part in a new joint venture for TikTok in the U.S. Winnebago Industries jumped 8.4%. Winnebago turned in profits for its latest quarter that easily beat analyst forecasts. Seth Sutel, New York.
More than 272,000 Ford EVs and hybrids are being recalled after a software glitch was found in the integrated park module. That's creating a rollaway risk. Ford says only about 1% of affected vehicles likely have that defect. More on these stories at Town Hall.
Welcome to downtown Elgin, where businesses, community, and creativity come together. The Downtown Neighborhood Association provides valuable, complimentary services to all downtown businesses, organizations, property owners, and residents, helping you gain exposure and thrive. Whether you're already part of the district or exploring a new downtown location, DNA is here to help your vision grow. Join us in creating a vibrant, connected, and successful downtown Elgin. Call now, 847-488-1456, or you can email info@downtownelgin.com. Ask for Jennifer Facala. Downtown Neighborhood Association, where the heart of business beats strong.
Fix Bayonets, comrades. This is Chief Guard of Republic Radio Shoutout Show. Veteran Shoutout Show with your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvid every Saturday, noon until 2. And if you're wondering where you're at and you're just randomly pushing the seek up or seek down buttons on your car because you don't want to look at it, but you got them on the steering wheel there, you're on 1410 AM. WRMN, the Fox River Valley Media Network. And I've got to find out all the other media channels on that. You know, what actually encases the Fox River Valley Media Network? You know, who is our overall overlord and who are our coworkers in the salt mines. Anyway, so yeah, the lead in you here is
everybody on this network is really cool, and everybody should listen to them. And you should get a well-rounded opinion about what everybody's got to say, because we have very informative hosts. We have very interesting topics. Whether you're on board with it or not, at least you'll get some knowledge from it. And there's great people on this network and on this station.
I said. So yeah, no, I haven't met a person I don't like yet.
Right?
They're all pretty cool. And all right, so I was going to lead with a story about like things that happen, and so I get a lot of the detectives were I consider a little wiser than me. I wouldn't say smarter, but probably a little wiser. We had certain supervisors who were, hey, you guys. So normally there would be an up list, who gets the next piece of garbage out of the garbage can to handle, to clean up, right? But we had some supervisors that didn't care about any up list. They were, hey, you, the first person they saw, here's a piece of garbage for you. I'm like, sorry, I'm working on yesterday's garbage. I don't care, you're here. So most of the guys would get out of the office. They're gone, boop. Yeah. They'd go somewhere else where the supervisors couldn't find them, so they wouldn't have to pick up all the garbage. So one day, supervisor gives me this case, and it's a misdemeanor battery to a bus driver, right? So some girl had battered a bus driver, and the bus driver was mad because this girl had not been charged with a felony. Phone calls were made and pressure was being put on the supervisors, who then in turn give me this case. Because I told them, I says, well, just have them send it to the grand jury to indict. Why do I have to work on it? All right. It's a misdemeanor. It's at court. Have the state's attorneys forward it to the grand jury to indict it. No, they want a detective working on it. I'm like, okay. So now I got this case that I have to work on to upgrade to a felony. So you would think felony review would be in line, because now the state's attorneys at misdemeanor court want this upgraded to a felony, but no one told felony review that. So I tell felony review what I have is a battery supposedly against the bus driver. All right. And we had the person in custody, and they said, well, I says it was on a bus. They go, is there any video evidence? I go, yeah, the buses have videos. We'll go get the video evidence of this. I'm like, okay. So I go get the video evidence. And the video evidence, well, one of the things they wanted was that I needed to talk to everyone that was, first thing they said is I needed to talk to everyone that was on the bus when the incident occurred. Mind you, this incident occurred a month ago. A month later. Yeah, I've got it a month later. So they want me to talk to supposedly everyone that was on the bus then. There are ways to track that. Yep, there are. But first thing I do is go get the video. And to my delight, right? To my delight, what I see is the bus driver getting out of her seat and beating the crap out of the supposed offender. Literally beating the crap out of her. And this is a little girl that's getting beat. Well, not a girl, but a small woman, a petite woman, getting beat up by this rather large female bus driver. And what happens is from the back of the bus, an even larger person comes forward, grabs the bus driver and throws her off the bus and gets off the bus and keeps walking, thereby breaking up the fight and probably saving this little girl from some serious damage. But the bus driver had already hit the alarm, and the police come, and she demands that the person she was beating up get arrested. So this is really ridiculous, right? Now I call the felony review back and tell him, I says, I need a rejection on this right now. You need to see this video. I need an absolute rejection, right? And they're like, not until you talk to everyone that was on the bus. I'm like, well, how am I going to do that? That was a month ago. So They insist on it, and my sergeant was very insistent on that I investigate this and do my best to get felony charges or whatever. So now I'm going to tow the bus, and I'm going to take it, and I'm going to have it super glued by the evidence technicians. Even though this was a month ago, and possibly it's been washed and everything, there might be an odd print of someone I could identify that I could talk to. Then I'm going to have to dump all the bus passes that came on, every one of those to get the people that were on the bus, right? Then I'm going to have to get videos of bus stops to show who got on and who got off, to check this, get the whole thing, and try to I was going to send the footage to NASA. I was getting all ready to do everything because NASA had the facial recognition at the time. Luckily, my sergeant comes in the next day when I'm doing all this work, and he says, "What are you doing?" I says, "I'm still working on that felony upgrade from yesterday." And he goes, "Oh, that's garbage. Just suspend it. Here's another piece of garbage for you to handle." So luckily, he told me to get rid of that one, which was really bad, And I found this girl's public defender, and I says, "Here's the inventory number on the video. You absolutely need to get that video and watch it right now. And you need to hook this girl up with the tort lawyer." But, okay, so they're jumping through hoops for this one. Obviously, if they had looked at their own videos, which they should have, the supervisor should have, they knew that their person was in the wrong. And did they think that them screaming at my supervisors would get them an automatic felony out of the girl that was innocent? And then they could just dump the whole problem on the Chicago police for overreacting, right? Right, Paul?
Right.
The patrolmen had no idea. They didn't have access to the video. They were going on the bus driver's word. She should be a trusted agent of the CTA, a trusted agent, that she wouldn't lie to get some innocent person, and God knows what this person said to her. She could have said anything, but what did our teachers in preschool and first grade tell us? Sticks and stones, right?
Right.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. How wrong they were, huh, Paul?
Right.
How wrong they were. They obviously didn't know the people we worked with.
Well, you know what's interesting, and it seems like they wanted a fall guy for this when you're telling me this, because it's real simple. Under the code, under 512.4.
But that's Chicago. Hitting person on the public way is a felony.
Right, but it's in two places. Anybody who's an employee or passenger of a public transportation facility or any government employee, and a CTA worker is a political subdivision of Illinois, so automatically there it could have been done. They didn't need you to interview anybody, like you're saying. All they have to do is take their status, the fact that he was working or she was working, and they don't even have to waste all this time. They could do it, but they don't.
But the kicker here is there was video showing their employee committing aggravated battery because she's employee doesn't give her a wash from the statute. That's a passenger. She beat up a passenger on her bus.
You're just bringing up. I mean, I hate to say this, but this is years back. And I almost got into a fight with the guy in the boss's office with this. So there was a strike going on, okay? And what happened was a union member claimed to have been run over by a strike breaker at the corporation, okay? And, so a big politician, I don't want to name names, but he would be like, a real big guy in the legislature in Illinois and not the House. Okay. He brought this guy in, and, at the time, Anita was the head of the bureau. she made me come in with the deputy and some other people and stuff like that. And they said, we want you to look into this, So there's video. There's video of this. And nobody watched the video. And the guy said, hey, Joe, you jump into the back of the truck or whatever. And he did, and but the union guy, they wanted, the company prosecutor, they want the driver prosecutor and everything.
Oh, Paul, you don't tell me they didn't. They watched the video. They knew exactly what happened. Yet they pushed it through anyways.
I took a different tact. I told my investigator, who's a great guy.
Yeah, I know.
Mike Belcarcel. He's retired, but he moved to another state. But I said, Mike, go get us one of these newfangled recorders. And I want this guy to read what we're saying. And then I said, I want you to take his voice tape and the video and send it to the FBI. And I want to make sure he says the same thing and all the stuff. And it was it was the guy, no question about it. So I bring the guy in, and I make him take the recording and everything. I said, we're sending this to the FBI, and the guy said, yeah, they told me to do that, whatever. They told me to do that, So I told him, I said, hey, there's no case here. So then they made me go to I'm trying to think 2 or 3 more meetings, one with this big honcho from the legislature,
Yeah.
And it's like I had to justify myself. So I said, well, here's the problem. I said, you, sir, and your guys told me one thing. I said, the video clearly says another, but I didn't stop there. I said, I brought your victim in. I made him talk into the recorder.
Well, you didn't make them. You asked. You requested.
No, I sent him a subpoena.
Okay.
I sent him a subpoena, and I said that I usually don't do that for victims, but I said I wanted this real clear, and then he, whatever, and then so then the politician looked at me because they were getting ready to do something to me for something on this, and then the politician then said, well, I could see you're right. There is no case here. I go, but you know what's really sad? I said, I told you guys this 3 times. And I said, and then still the union was quite upset. But, it's everybody's got their own optics on things.
No one gets more upset. No one gets more upset than a con man or a scammer when you unravel their con or scam. It's like the greatest crime in the world. I had this scam going. I was going to illegally take money from all these old people. I was going to be rich, and you had to ruin my scam. You're an evil person.
People do that with relatives. They do that with relatives. If they don't, the relative could be like the nicest person in the world, and the other one could be the biggest bust out, patronage weirdo, and then they're mad because you have something, and they'll do anything to get it. I mean, it's really sad. It's like my cousin at lunch mentioned this. Yes, it's like the unentitled are just ticked that you have it. And they want it, but they won't work for it, and it's really sad. And when you understand the human nature of that, and then you wonder how could this ever be, and then you realize there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people like that.
So to fix the CTA's bus driver problem, right, and not bus driver problem, but the problem with people not riding the CTA anymore, right? So that it can't make money, and people not being people that can't afford a car or had too many DUIs or are physically incapable of driving a car for everyone else's safety that do need public transportation, privatize it. Do what they do in Panama. Get some get some guys and say, hey, we're selling routes instead of medallions. You know, you're selling routes. You could have a route, and you know, it doesn't matter how many buses are on that route. All right. You could have 100 buses running north and south on Western Avenue all day long, 100 buses, each individually owned, requiring their own individual security, allowing them to have their own individual security. All right. And then they go out, they have to maintain their own bus. Right? They got to maintain their own bus. They got to gas up their bus. Right? They got to pay for this or the radio dispatch to have direct contact with the police for the city, and then just toss the CTA away. And you will have a lot more efficiency because the guys that have the best, okay, so you give each bus a number, like number 14,058, right? 14,058. And that guy runs up and down Western Avenue. And all of a sudden, the word on the street gets there that his bus is filthy. It stinks, right? He's slow. He's an angry person. He slams on the brakes. You know, he's running red lights or stuff like that. Don't get on that bus. And guess what? People won't get on that bus because there'll be another one right behind him. Instead of, well, I got to shove my way into the Archer Express because for some reason during rush hour, they decided to only run 3 buses down Archer Avenue. So everyone's packed in from the high schools, from getting off work, from everything else. You're packed in like a sardine. You know, because if you don't get on that bus, you might wait an hour and a half for the next one.
If it comes.
If it comes. I was out there when I was at IIT. I was out at 35th and State waiting for the 35th Street bus to take me to Archer Avenue so I could take the Archer Avenue to usually take the Archer to Pulaski and take the Pulaski bus down. Right? That was the most efficient way. Although I could have taken Western to 79th, but 79th was touch and go if you were west of Western Avenue. Right? There weren't as many buses going west of Western Avenue for some reason at that time, but there were plenty going east.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, for some reason. All right.
Yeah, I know.
All right. So, yeah, I'm standing out there in the middle of like January, freezing. It was super sub-zero, and I just want to go home. I'm standing out there for 2 hours, and I don't want to leave because I don't want to miss the. Finally, a police officer had mercy on me, drove by and said, you know they're on strike. I had no clue. They didn't go on strike until 15 minutes after I was waiting at the bus stop. What did the bus drivers do? Just stop their buses and go home?
That's probably what they did do, yeah.
Just leave them wherever. Probably did. So, but you know what? I had to ride the bus. I couldn't, you know. When I was going to the police academy, there's nowhere to park. So you have to get up early, take the bus, hope you make it there on time. So what do? You ended up getting to work an hour earlier because you had to give yourself an hour leeway for bus troubles.
That's exactly. I would get to work an hour early, and you know, and I get home an hour late. You know, because you know I left, and you know you got in the big mix, and then you know whatever. Yeah, you spent more time. Almost, you spent half of the day was spent pretty much traveling for a job. You know, and people don't understand that. You know,
yeah.
It wasn't like you're there in 10, 12 minutes.
Well, that's the one great thing that they had. The thing that came out of the, they called it a pandemic. Some people call it a plandemic. I call it a illegal test of biological agents on a unwilling public. Mostly somewhat unwilling public. A lot of people just dove into that one. But people were working from home because they still needed to work. And people that had administrative type jobs or creative type jobs where they could create on their computer or administrate something, or they could send them the data on their computer and they could work from home, you know, it saved a lot of travel back and forth. People got used to that, and a lot of jobs became work from home jobs. Before that, people would get tired. Well, you had to. It's the yuppie spawning cycle, right?
Yep.
You know, when they're young, and they just got out of college. They still live in the DePaul area. They still live in the uptown, you know, in Bucktown or whatever. They're still living in these trendy areas by the universities, right? And it's one bus or a bike ride through a bike lane down Lincoln Avenue. They're downtown at their administrative whatever job. It's great, right? It's great. They don't have a lot of, commute time, and they're still in a trendy area, so they got nice restaurants, nice bars and everything. But when they marry and have kids, and they try to send their kids to a public school, they realize that, holy cow, I'm paying huge property taxes, and my kids are going to a school where 99% of them can't read. You know, my kid's not getting the attention, and me and my wife have to now work jobs to live in this trendy area and pay the taxes. So they move all the way out to the suburbs, and they put up with the 2-hour commute because now they're sending their kids to a school in the suburbs where the kids are getting educated, getting a better education, having a better chance to get into DePaul or, you know, get into a more Ivy League school than they would if they had gone to public schools. And I'm not saying that, see, there are some good public schools out there, but you're not politically connected enough to send your kids there. Nope, it's fair. It's fair. It's absolutely fair. It's fair for everyone. No, it isn't. We know that, right? So, yeah, they could go and they could say, well, what about this? What about Whitney Young? Okay. Okay, Whitney Young. Yeah, that's one. What about the Walter, it wasn't the steroids, Peyton Academy? Oh, okay, there's another one. There's another school in Chicago. How many schools in Chicago? And they come up with 2. There's 2. The Math and Science Academy, 3.
Yeah.
All right, so last break before the last quarter of the Chief Guard of the Republic radio shout-out show, Veteran Shout-Out Show.
Is diabetes keeping you from enjoying life's special moments? At US Med, we understand the challenges you face, and we're here to help.
With US Med, I can finally manage my diabetes without it managing me.
US Med offers a wide range of services to simplify your diabetes care. Personalized care plans, convenient access to cutting-edge diabetes tech, and knowledgeable support. Plus, we'll check your insurance so your diabetes care may be covered at little or no cost to you.
With US Med, I feel confident and control of my diabetes. I can finally live my life to the fullest.
Don't let diabetes hold you back. Choose US Med and experience better birthdays, better adventures, better anniversaries, and better everything. Call now. US Med. Better service, better care. 800-785-1673. 800-785-1673. 800-785-1673. That's 800-785-1673. Are you suffering with anxiety, depression, PTSD, an eating disorder, or even a substance abuse problem? If it's causing problems at work or with your family, get help now at Insight Mental Health and Wellness. We can help and treat all types of depression and mental issues. We'll help you use your insurance to get away from it all to a beautiful, sunny, and tranquil vacation-like environment so you can recharge yourself. And with the Family Medical Leave Act, you could take the time off you need from work. Plus, with the Affordable Care Act, your treatment could be 100% covered. If you're suffering from any kind of anxiety, depression, PTSD, eating disorder, or even a substance abuse problem, use your insurance and get away from it all. Come to sunny California. Call Insight Mental Health and Wellness now. 800-419-0287. 800-419-0287. 800-419-0287. That's 800-419-0287.
Businesses come in all shapes and sizes. Integrity doesn't. For more than a century, the Better Business Bureau has set the standards for how businesses should operate honestly and ethically. So when you're looking for a business you can trust, check to see who's BBB accredited and who isn't. Always choose the Better Business. Look for the BBB seal because it's looking out for you. That's why it's the sign of a better business. And find a better business anytime at bbb.org.
Want to know what the shepherds did after they visited the Christ child? Read the short novel, The Good Shepherds, a Christmas combat story by Michael Tooman. Available on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle editions. Check out Michael Tooman's webpage at Scilink.net. That is PSYLINK.net. Papa Sierra Yankee, Lima India November Kilo, November Echo Tango.
If your idea of therapy involves a fishing rod, a tree stand, or a campfire, then you need American Outdoors Radio. Host John Cruz speaks your language, whether it's about the best lures, tracking game, or that one buddy who always forgets to bring the beer. John's got the tips to sharpen your aim, the hacks to pack lighter, and the stories to keep you entertained. Again, that's American Outdoor Radio with John Cruz. Saturdays at 7 a.m. on WRMN 1410. Or stream it at WRMN1410.com. Get ready to outfish, outhunt, and outcamp them all on American Outdoor Radio with John Cruz.
Fixed Bayonets, comrades, this Chief Guard of the Republic Radio shout-out show with your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvid. Every Saturday, noon until 2, we're in the last half hour of our show. So we're on 1410 AM, WRMN out of Elgin on the Fox River Valley Media Network. The dial-in numbers here are 847-931-1410, and the text is 505-926-1410. As always, you can find us on WRMN 1410's YouTube channel, where we are currently live, and all of our shows are live. Not all of them, most of them. Right now, I'd say 99% of our shows have been live. I had to do one pre. I was going to a wedding, and I had to do something. I had to pre-tape it, and I'm looking to improve that show and have one of those. I need to have one of those in stock, ready to go in case something happens last minute. But I try to keep my Saturdays free because I enjoy the show so much, and I hope everyone else enjoys it. Although I'm not really asking you to keep your Saturdays free just for my show, but it would be nice. Paul, you keep your Saturdays free for the show?
I pretty much do, yeah.
Yeah. Is it worth it?
I like it.
I like it, yeah. So, the 38 years in the military, when I first came in, you could be on a military base, and there were bus stops, all right, shuttle bus stops, right? And you could be waiting there for a while. Sometimes the shuttle buses didn't run exactly on time. There was no time thing. It was just whenever, the toothless old guy that they hired to. It wasn't a military guy driving this bus. It was someone that they hired to drive around. Maybe he would come around, maybe he wouldn't. But they always had a, pick up a soldier, because the bases, who else would be on a military base but military? And a lot of bases were closed bases. So you figure everyone on there is military. So, you pick up a soldier, take him to the PX. He's going to the PX. You're going that way. Why spend all that gas running just yourself? You pick up the GIs and everything. And that became a big, First of all, they got rid of shuttle buses. Then they said you can't do that. And I think that was really like our downtown Cleveland dentist there. He the big three car companies lobbied the trolleys into extinction, right? And I think it was the car dealerships around the military bases, because if you could just get a ride, just be walking to PX, get picked up and get a ride, there was no need for you to have a car, because the Army isn't, evil or anything. They wouldn't put a brand new PX and commissary 15 miles away from soldier housing. They would never do something like that on Fort Bragg or Fort Echuca. Yeah, they would never do that. They would never make you walk that far and then have to carry all the bags and everything all the way back. They would never do that. So if you own a car, they're making money off of you. And believe me, the interest rates they charge you are like unbelievable, because these kids have no credit. It's an ongoing joke. The guy joins the Army, he goes to basic training, he goes to AIT, he's in a lockdown situation for like 5-6 months where he isn't allowed to spend any of his money. He doesn't have anywhere to put it. And then he gets to his permanent station and he's got 6 months worth of pay, which is a great down payment on a car. In fact, you go to the Lemon lot and buy a car right there and be good, and not have these payments. The Lemon lots where everyone trying to sell the car because now they need to sell their car because they can't afford to pay. It just goes nuts. But, that would be less of a problem, right? That would be less of a problem if they increased public transportation, soldier transportation on the base. Make sure that these shuttle buses weren't running every hour. Maybe they were running every 15 minutes. Because let's say you got your shopping done and you missed the bus. Now you're sitting there wasting your time for an hour waiting for the bus to get back to your barracks so you can put your stuff away, and then it gets out.
What would have been? What would have been really good for something like that?
What?
A military zip car rental place.
Oh no, Joe would screw that up. By Joe, I mean G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe is a generic term for anyone that we use.
But that would be something that would, because you wouldn't have to own it. You could just pay, use it, and then come back,
Say, true story. I'm not going to use the S word, but no S word, there I was. No crap, there I was. Because we use the S word so it's a true story. And you say no crap, there I was. But you use the S word instead, right? And so we're sharing one rental car. There's 3 of us. And we're all the same rank. We're all staff sergeants. And we're down at Fort Swampy, Camp Swampy, or Fort Polk, Louisiana. And they have the JRTC, not Junior ROTC, but Joint Readiness Training Center down there. And it's like a 20-kilometer by 20-kilometer box. They call it the box. And it's supposed to be kind of European, but they use it for various scenarios. And they train brigades. Brigades rotate through there, and they have an OPFOR, and you're trying to do peacekeeping operations against an OPFOR. You're trying to do war operations, but peacekeeping everything. So we went down there as observer controllers, which means that we're the subject matter experts. At the time, it was psychological operations. And we're going to share one rental car between 3 of us. But we had to take turns, getting our days off. And we had one guy with us. And all I could tell you was that he was the king of the slow people. This guy.
Okay, I'm getting you.
All right. He was not all there. So one of the things they didn't want you doing was wearing your baseball cap. All right. Your cap, because no, not the baseball cap, your boonie cap. All right. The boonie cap, the cap you're never allowed to wear. So the boonie cap, which is like an Aussie cap or whatever, floppy hat all the way around, brim and everything. And they issued that to you, and they tell you don't wear it. But the OPFOR wore that, so you could identify the OPFOR. They were wearing those hats, right? So you could identify OPFOR by those hats. So this guy's an observer controller, and he's wearing the boonie hat, and he's told not to, but he does it anyways, right? So now everyone's mistaking him for OPFOR, and they're giving away their position, shooting at him when he's just an observer controller. Not live rounds, but the laser tag stuff, right? So it's my turn to go get the car. Now, you can only drive like 10 miles an hour in the box, and you got to get 20 kilometers out. So it takes you a long time in a Hummer to get out there. You're going as slow as possible. At night, you got to be blackout, so you're driving with night vision goggles, which if you ever driven in 2 dimensions on the moon, that's what night vision goggles are. You're driving in 2 dimensions on the moon. So I get all the way back in to the cantonment area where we're at, and I'm looking around for the rental car keys because I can't take the tactical vehicle into the area where we're staying. So I go get a shower and everything and get some food and stuff. I've got to take the rental car. No keys. No keys. Can't find the keys, right? So I call up this guy who's all the way in the box now. He's all the way back in the box. That was at least a half hour, 45-minute drive to get out of there, right? I get on radio. We have like a Motorola. It wasn't the military bands. It was our observer controller band. And I go, hey, doofus, where are the car keys? And here's what he says. This is what Joe, right? This is why you can't do the zip car thing with Joe there, right? He goes, in my pocket? I'm like, dude, you're supposed to leave them in the desk drawer like we agreed. So I says, stay there, because I wasn't going to tell him to come in, because, only one of us in at a time, right? I said, stay there. I'm coming to get him. Give me your grid coordinates. Stay where you're at, all right? He gives me the grid. I drive out there. I go, hey, doofus, where are you? I'm at your grid coordinates. And he goes, well, I'm over here now. And I says, oh, I'm getting ready to commit violence on this guy, right? So finally, one of the full-time observer controllers says, no, I got him. You don't come over here. I'll bring the keys to you. Because he knew I was getting violent. I was losing it, right? So he brings me the keys. I go all the way back in, open the car door. It smells like a porta potty, like that chemical, like terrible. Because dude was smoking pot in there. So he bought something, whatever. But on top of that, guess what?
What?
Completely out of gas. Had to push it 250 yards to the gas station. That's the rental car. So when you get the zip car thing with Joe there, he will ruin that. The other thing is, rental car company, can you go in at 21 years old and rent a car?
No.
No, they want you to be 25. Most GIs are 18 to 21. That would be the same thing with that zip car thing. A good idea there, a good idea. Or let's say the company, each individual company, they have 14 passenger vans. They have a charge of quarters. They have company runners. Why couldn't they institute a shuttle bus service for these guys? Oh, well, that's the next additional duty. Then someone else would have to cover that on the weekends, and that kind of sucks. Yeah, wow, you'd have to do duty on the weekends in the military. Oh, my God. I was just a weekend warrior, except when I deployed and I didn't get weekends off, and that was like 52 weekends in a row. But having a better shuttle bus system or a company-run shuttle bus would probably be better. But they won't allow that to happen because Leroy, who owns the Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe auto used the new autos, slightly used autos, down in downtown Fayetteville, that has credit for everyone. 18 years old, no credit. We'll give you a loan. 44% interest. We only need a down payment of $5,000. Oh, that's about what you got in your last 6 months pay, right? You got that in your bank account. Now, give us that $5,000. Car's worth $4,500. 18-year-old don't know that. He's just excited to get a car. Plus, now he's paying, 44% interest on another $5,000. No one stops that. None of the generals are downtown stopping that. None of the base commanders, none of the company commanders, don't go down there. They'll rip you off. The kids go down there anyways and get ripped off. They're not putting them off limits. But that's not the company commander's job. That's the job of those of our Congress, our senior leaders in the military at those bases, the senior leaders, the generals, the colonels, should be there saying, how much interest are you charging? You're off limits. Okay, then they call their congressman and you'll never make general colonel because I'm calling my and who's he going to go for? His next rank promotion? Some of them would say, yeah, I don't care. Give me a call. Let me get that call. Okay, I got that call. I resigned. Why did you resign? Because I got that call. Here's the call. Here's the general that gave me the call. Because he wants my guy's paying 44% interest. See, that doesn't happen. Everyone's looking out for their own stuff. And that's where I love Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War. Love him. Unfortunately, he didn't come into Army in 1982. He didn't come into Army in the 70s. He didn't see the hollow Army between 1975 and 1990. All right? He didn't see that stuff. He made major special forces. He's kind of like he's special operations community lives in a bubble. They're a little smarter. They're not going to sign for 44% interest loans. But he never got the senior rank to be able to stop that. But now he is at that rank. He is at that place. You want to improve the condition of soldiers? All right? Put a kibosh on them getting ripped off on these cars and make transportation around the post easier for them and into town. Like you said, you could be in Peoria, take the train, right? Fort Devens. Great thing about Fort Devens, I forget which rinky-dink little, Pepperidge Farm Remembers town is right outside the base there. I forget the name of it, but they were kind of rude because, you're military and they could treat you like crap because you're going to rotate out and more people will come in and they'll treat them like crap too. But you could get on the train and it was like half price for military and go all the way into Boston or any of the towns along there. That was a great part of being at Fort Devens. Now ask me what the great part of being at Fort Polk was.
What?
It wasn't one. Except that my daughter was born there. That's the only good part of Fort Polk, Louisiana. The only good reason that Fort Polk, Louisiana exists is to have the hospital there for my daughter to be born at. That was Lucia, So there's not, and that was set here. That was, again, back in the 90s. They had a survey, the Army Times, I believe it was, sent out a survey, what is the worst post to be assigned to? And there was, where's Leavenworth at? Fort Riley.
Kansas.
Fort Riley 1. The worst post to be assigned to. And I think Fort Riley at the time was the home of the 1st Infantry Division. Call me up if I'm wrong or whatever. But the reason was because there's nothing around Fort Riley, right? You have a crappy little town there. Fort Polk was the same way. And one of the key features was how close were you to an actual mall, an actual city mall, back before Amazon, all right? The Walmarts were there, but people wanted to go to a mall, meet some chicks, have some, go to the food court, get some more trendy clothes than what the PX or Walmart would carry, right? They wanted to go to a mall, see a movie at the mall that wasn't like 8 months old already. And they put down that the closest mall to Fort Polk was in Alexandria, Louisiana, which was 60 miles away. And here is the retort that the base commander wrote. That's not true. It's 58 miles away. What did the 2 miles matter to a guy that doesn't have transportation to get there? Oh, thank God I only had to walk 58 miles instead of 60 miles. Or my bicycle. Only had to bicycle through the Louisiana swamps for 58 miles instead of 60 miles. Man, that general set him straight. He's not living in a bubble. He's not clueless. The little guys there, the guys that don't have a car. Was there a shuttle bus? Now they had, if you're a major basic training post, like Fort Benning, you go into the Atlanta airport. Guess what they have there? Guess what they have? A shuttle bus where the military picks you up and takes you down to Fort Benning. Right? The other bases, they have shuttle buses that you're encouraged to use, but they're not part of the military. But when you talk about these basic training posts, they pick them up at the airport and bring them right down. Again, here's the thing. That would be an additional duty, or you would have to pay some civilian to drive that bus, and you'd have to maintain that bus. What costs more? Losing a soldier to multiple DUIs, right? Because he's had DUIs and he's now considered a disciplinary problem, and he's thrown out of the Army after everything you invested in training and everything for him, or a soldier that gets in a car wreck because he really doesn't have a lot of experience driving or anything, and you lose that soldier because he's injured or dead, or paying for a couple bus drivers and maintenance on a couple buses and the gasoline to drive these guys in and out of the major attractions.
I could be wrong on this, but I think any kid born at Fort Polk has a unique social security number that's just for that location.
Really? Well, no, they used to give social security numbers by the state you lived in. Now it's just like 3-3, right? 3-3, that's like Chicago.
Right.
Right. So, but my daughter was born there, so she has a Louisiana, a 5-something. I should have it memorized. But she has a 5-something social security number. And a Louisiana birth certificate. She's a Cajun. She could claim being a Cajun. She was born there. So she's got birthright Cajunness, right?
Right.
The birthright Cajun. So any final words? We got about 6 minutes left in the show. Got about 4 minutes left in the show. I'm going by the clock up here, but who knows? Paul? Anyone want to call in? Scandemic. All right. So, full circle. I wanted to roll this into the military. And if anyone has a connection to Pete, first of all, let him know that I would make a very excellent Undersecretary of War for Reserve Affairs. Excellent. Whether I'd be approved or not, that's another story. But I know what to do. The other thing is, let's not focus on rebuilding housing for Joe. Joe will mess that housing up regardless of how nice you make it for him, how easy it is to maintain, or whatever. Why do you think they made them out of cinder block, right? These things out of cinder block. It's because Joe had more difficult time destroying cinder block than he did regular brick. And God forbid you make it out of steel and glass, right? But you need discipline on these kids. You need supervision. You need mentorship. I'm not saying discipline like your room's filthy, so we're going to put you in the stockade for a month. I'm saying the discipline that they know, right, their room should be clean, and they know they're going to be inspected, so they might as well do the bare minimum to get past inspection, which will carry on in their life doing the bare minimum to get ready for anything. You don't have to do everything to get ready. You only have to do the bare minimum because you're ready. That's what I tell people with standards, the Army standards. Well, You only got 60% on each event in your physical fitness test. And I'd be like, this is later on in my career. I says, that's the Army standard. That's pass. You know, what are you going to give me if I get 300? Oh, a little patch to wear on my PT uniform. The only thing that makes the old Army PT uniforms look even more ridiculous is the excellence in physical fitness patch sewn on there. That's the only thing that makes them look even more ridiculous. You could put a bunny tail on the back, and it still wouldn't look more ridiculous than that patch. But it's a standard, right? It's a standard. You're ready to go. That says you're ready to go. You know, you don't have to be 1A to be in the military. You could be a 4F and be drafted. It depends on how many people are there, but that still says you're ready to go. Someone's saying you are ready to go. So get these kids up to a basic standard, and you'll have less problems with maintenance in those places. Yes, there are problems. There are design problems. Black mold. Sometimes that's a design problem. But if you don't maintain the air conditioning systems, if your Corps of Engineers is told that they're supposed to come in monthly to replace the air filters and they come in biannually, that's going to be a problem. And then that's a supervision and that's a discipline issue on them. But if the kids are complaining and the commanders aren't listening, and the commanders call the Army Corps of Engineers and they say, well, get right on of it, or they give them the BS, we got a backlog on it, that's not acceptable. Go to the next higher up. All right? So,
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas. And yes, people are not riding the buses because of the crime. How do you fix that? Privatize the bus, give the bus driver personal ownership of that bus, and I guarantee you he'll have a thug on that bus to prevent crime. If I had $100,000 invested in a bus, you better believe I'll have the biggest, meanest guy that I can bond to be on that bus.
Absolutely.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Weseli Świąt, Bożego Narodzenia nam, Szczęśliwego Nowego Roku. I want to...
Take care, everyone.
When your car needs trusted care, think all-around auto body in Schaumburg.